We're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the regular meeting of the Asheboro City Council for Thursday, October the 8th. Appreciate you being here. Once again, this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. And we are practicing the proper social distancing. Most of the attendees are out in the hallway, socially distanced in chairs that are specifically placed. We will invite people into the room one at a time when they come to speak. At this point, I'd like to invite you to join me, stand and join me in a moment of meditation. I would invite you to pray in any manner that you are comfortable, and we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As is normal practice, this is the appointed time for a public comment period. If there's anyone in the building tonight that would like to address the Asheboro City Council on any matters of concern for the city or matters of city business, please come forward. This is your opportunity. Is there anyone? Okay. Having none, we will close the public comment period and ask the council for item 4. Council, you have in front of you a consent agenda. It has been, you had opportunity to consider. Is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like to remove for individual discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Burks. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Mr. Burks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, and you vote for affirmative?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good to have you with us tonight. Hope you're doing well. I miss seeing you. Miss having you here at the council meetings. Okay, consent agenda was approved unanimously. Item 5, Downtown Asheboro Incorporated. We have with us tonight our brand new executive director, Rebecca McGee. She has a proposal for us, and it is good to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Very much enjoyed my opportunity
Thank you. I was about to ask
to spend some time with you a couple weeks ago, and hope you've found everything to your liking so far.
I have. I'm still excited I'm here, so that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. I'm hoping you're going to move over here.
I'm working on it. I was actually looking at houses today.
Good. Good.
So, okay. So, I actually did not think I would be here within a month of starting my new position to be asking council for anything, but here we are. We actually have heard from several of our restaurants and our merchants that would like us to look into doing a downtown dining. Many cities are doing this. It is a benefit that has been added in the legislature due to COVID. People, their restaurants have been cut by 50%. And so this is a way to kind of address that. Again, we are a catalyst for businesses. We are we are following the North Carolina Main Street 4-point approach, and that being, we are here as an advocate, we are here to support businesses, we are here to grow the downtown. Cities across North Carolina, including Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Chapel Hill, are all doing on-street dining now. That includes not only the big cities, but little cities just like Asheboro, Morganton, Mount Airy, and New Bern. That's literally the mountains to the coast are 3 examples of cities that are doing on-street dining. These are also Main Street communities that are being able to do this. One of the things that we will require in doing on-street dining will be a site plan. The area does have to be stanchioned off to look like it is part of the restaurant. So it can't just be free willy-nilly in the middle of the street. They actually have to be attached to the property and the restaurant. They must adhere to ADA compliance in terms of allowing accessibility, and they must adhere to the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services regulations for masks and social distancing. We are actually asking for a specific date to do this from council, to close Sunset Avenue on Saturday, November 7th, providing the weather is good. We know we're getting kind of into the cold weather, and we are a little nervous about it, but we want to do something to help our businesses. And again, we're proposing a time 11 to 3 p.m. Lunch is a little bit more acceptable in this colder weather. I did want to provide a couple cities, like I said, smaller cities that are doing this. Winston-Salem, Greensboro. You can say, great, they're big cities, they're doing it. But not just that, the small cities are. And you can see the area is closed off completely, and they have on-street dining. This is New Bern. They have it on both sides of the street. That isn't actually, I was there in March for our last conference, and that has several restaurants going down the center lane. But also, I can't know if you can see that from here, but in the middle there's actually a lounge that came out, and they have couches in the middle there as well for people to sit on. And then Mount Airy, they actually did it on one side of the street, and if you can see, there's the White Elephant Brewery on this side, and then they also have shops that are participating as well, staying open later for shoppers that are eating and then finish and would like to. So that being said, we actually are requesting for the City Council to close Sunset Avenue and a portion of Bicentennial parking lot. We want to host an outdoor dine-in event on Saturday, November 7th. The city provides barricades and police for safety. We have asked several of the restaurants if they would be willing to participate, and all those on Sunset Avenue have said, whatever day you do this, we're very happy to participate. Whatever time, we want this, because we are at capacity on our weekends with 50% dining, and we want to be able to host more people. That is my first request, and I actually would like the City Council make a motion to approve closing that street on November 7th from 11 to 3 for the time, an hour before and an hour after just for safety. But I have an additional second request. My second request is that the City Council directs staff to do an ordinance amendment to allow alcohol sales in the public right-of-way for temporary events. Again, this is only temporary. This is not a permanent request. It is for when we host events, when we close down the streets, that they can sell in the public right-of-way. This is happening in Morganton, New Bern, Mount Airy, Winston-Salem, Chapel Hill, and Greensboro. They are selling, and part of the thing that they have to do is have that area stanchioned off, so it is clear that alcohol sales are happening from the restaurant into that area, but they cannot go outside of that area. So it is not a free-for-all, they can walk around with alcohol. That is not what we're asking. In response to that, downtown Asheboro has created a permit, so to speak, that we would be responsible for. Justin has an example of that. We would require a $1 million general and liquor liability with the city listed as additionally insured. Downtown Asheboro is in the process of getting a $1 million event insurance as well as a liquor liability umbrella policy. We are looking into that as well. They do have to have a site plan. They do have to have the area stanchioned off from the general walkway, and again, must adhere to ADA compliance and the North Carolina Health and Human Services guidelines. I hope that the City Council would look at this as an economic development incentive for these businesses. Again, I'm not requesting something they can do every Saturday, every Friday. It is event-based, and it is a temporary thing. And this is something that is happening around the state. And with that, I'll actually open it up for questions.
Questions?
Excuse me,
All right, here.
question for Jeff. You have seen this before?
No, I'm looking at it now.
Okay. Let me know when you get done.
Okay, go right ahead with the question. I'm
No,
listening.
I don't have one, that was it.
Okay.
Let me jump in here. Let me jump in. I believe you're asking for us to approve this at the next council meeting.
Yes, this
Not
is,
tonight.
yes.
Okay.
I am asking for the,
And the second request is for us to spend a little time getting our ducks in a row and approve this at
Yes.
the next council meeting.
yes, it is, the first request is just for the city street closure and the ability to do the on-street dining without alcohol sales.
So are you expecting either request to be addressed tonight?
I would like the first one with
I
the
think
street closure.
We
So
can
can
probably
let's
do the
plan
first
it
one
then,
tonight.
Perhaps, if it meets with approval.
And we have expressed to the restaurants that if this is approved now at this time, they will have to tell the patrons if they are dining outside, there will not be alcohol sales at this time, provided we don't have a definition for it. If that so changes in the future, then that can be expressed then as well.
So, if I'm hearing this right, then we would have a council meeting November 5th. Even though we may or may not have a president, we will have a mayor and a council.
I did that on
And,
purpose.
and this could be addressed then, assuming it's vetted, et cetera.
Correct.
And then,
I will just add,
assuming it's comprehensive, I mean, they could apply Friday and go Saturday, is that what I think I'm hearing?
Well, I fully expect anybody that wants to participate in anticipation of our approval would probably already have
Correct.
application in her hand,
Okay.
waiting for us to make our decision on the Thursday night,
Well, I didn't want to be,
prior to that Saturday night event.
I didn't want to be presumptive of council action nor advice of council of any nuance that may be.
This is designed to give Jeff adequate time to vet the process, and so, that she is not expecting an answer on that tonight.
No.
Well, let's back up to, well, other questions regarding, go right ahead.
Yeah, I had a question, and I thought she was asking action for us to direct staff to do the inquiry, but not for us to vote on the specific proposal as it relates to the second inquiry.
Correct, yes.
Okay. I did have a question, though, relative to the second request.
Sure.
You had indicated in the first presentation, or the first, that as we're addressing the first issue, that each location would be cordoned off as an extension of their particular location. Am I take it that the liquor liability would also go with their license and their service requirements of their particular
So
restaurant
So at the moment, we, downtown Asheboro, are asking them to section off their area to make it very clear. At the moment, they can only serve food in that area, but we want to go ahead and ask them to do that so they are comfortable with that. If at the next council, if for some reason, if it is approved, that would still be in place, and then they are also on their it is on their liquor liability.
I mean, it would be within their cordoned off section.
Yes,
Is that-
yes,
And again, not being able to go from
correct.
one location to another.
No, this is not open
In
carry.
theory, the sidewalk will be closed, say, on one side of the road and open on the other, depending on since all the restaurants are counted out on one side of Sunset.
For pig, for example, the flying pig, for example, I'm wearing my mask because you're standing right there.
Sorry.
Well, that's all right, that's all right. But their cordoned area would come from the pig, across the public sidewalk, out into about the center of the street.
Probably, yes.
All right, so anybody on that side of the street would have to walk out and around.
Yes.
Okay.
Or they can leave an area on the side of the sidewalk that is ADA compliant as well. It will just have to be clearly that that is attached to that building. So there are some areas where you can walk through public sidewalks, even though they're stanchioned off, and it's clear that this is it depends on how each city and how each restaurant wants to do it. I've seen it right up against the building, and you can't move to, you have to go all the way around, and I've seen them allow 5 feet of clearance for ADA accessibility even on the sidewalk, but then their stanchion area starts. I've seen it both ways.
On our particular case, we're all on one side, so it's probably has more clarity to tie to the place, I would think.
May I address that
Mr.
issue?
Mayor,
You need to. Yeah, yes, ma'am, Ms. Carter.
I have a question. What about Church Street?
At the time, we are just focusing on Sunset Avenue. We would love to include Church Street. That does create a whole nother problem with DOT closing that area. Again, it is able, as long as the city makes allowances for it, to be able to sell in the public right-of-way, even if it is DOT. But because of the short time frame and turnaround, Church Street was not included in this proposal. I will say I have spoken with Dusty, and she is aware of what we are doing, and that it will not necessarily include the table at this time.
Did you hear that okay, Ms. Carter?
I need to think.
Okay, great.
You're gonna have some upset people, though.
And how about,
Is Dusty okay with that at this
how
point?
about Positano's? Are we considering the parking lot for Positano's?
We could definitely do that. It makes it a little bit harder for the table, but they also have more outdoor seating than most places do with their patio. And if you were open to the farmer's market, the parking lot being closed off, we could include that as well.
Half of it.
Half of it, yes. Because that's the other thing with Bicentennial Park. The map actually it closes off a portion of that. And again, this is contingent on if it is passed to allow alcohol sales on a temporary basis in the right-of-way. That would include, we've asked, the Key to Healthy wants to participate, as well as
Popcorn?
Four Saints. Popcorn right now. So it's not closing all of Bicentennial Park,
Just the lower end to accommodate the.
Yes.
The Four Saints and.
but still allow parking because we realize we're taking a lot of parking and closing these streets and Bicentennial, and a portion of Bicentennial Park.
What about your other properties there on, Church Street? Like, next to the bakery? I mean, we've got other places that could be open. They wouldn't be selling food, but they would be having the opportunity to have, their wares outside.
We have also, I spoke with Justin, and we have considered that if, a lot of the question comes into if they're serving food on site that's not prepackaged or alcohol sales, it kind of has to be closed at their location. But if they are like a Key to Healthy or the bakery or places that have prepackaged items that can come on to Sunset, we could possibly move them to Sunset as well, because it's not a question of food being made, it's prepackaged food versus actual food on site being cooked to order, and then also alcohol sales, if the second one is approved.
So it's just, what you're talking about mainly is just restaurants, or the bars that can open up instead of, the other, businesses downtown.
We've actually seen that a lot of the retail shops enjoy this event as well, because it brings a ton of people into the downtowns that are willing to sit there and spend their time. We'd like to actually create kind of an atmosphere with that if this is approved and we go forward with it. We've talked about hiring a band. So it's more as a walking event downtown. It's not necessarily just to promote only the restaurants. Now, it is a provision to allow them to have more capacity, because their Friday and Saturday nights are still busy, but they have only 50% of their business. So it hasn't impacted retail shops as much, because you're not normally going into retail shops in, 50 people to 100 people at one single time and eating. Yes.
As a consideration, I don't know, just brainstorming here with what conversation. On Church Street, there's a perhaps, you could allow seating on the sidewalk, you could place, drums in the parking spaces, because, you know, the city has a parking lot right near the bakery, and, you know, there's another city lot next to the farmer's market. I mean, there's still parking. You utilize the parking spaces for the sidewalk, if you will, and utilize the sidewalk for any additional dining, you know, or bakery consumption, or whatever that, you know, would follow along with Ms. Carter's, you know, question or thought process. I mean, that would allow some area and maintain your pedestrian traffic and not close the road
Yes.
and meet the DOT requirements.
And there's a little bit more room in that parking lot and that sidewalk for that, whereas some of the areas are still very narrow.
A question, and I don't know what phase 3 means at this, I mean, maybe I should have looked that up before I asked this question, but because we're closing off areas, and if I'm looking on the map there, so we've got an area closed off there on the parking lot at Bicentennial Park, does that not fall under the governor's requirements for a limited number of people within that area?
So that's a lot of gray area right now in the phase 3, phase 2, phase whatever we're in.
2.5 or whatever we're in, I'm not even sure.
2.5.
Just end of the day.
Yeah.
It falls within a gray area because it says you can have 50% capacity, but then you can only have 25 gathering, but then you can have this much in this space, 30% in this space. They have made a provision for outdoor areas that increases the allowance. It's just something that other cities have been able to do, and we've been asked to look into it to basically give Asheboro businesses the chances that other cities are.
I'm not sure what 7% of Bicentennial Park is. You know,
I don't know either.
You know,
What's the
it's-
capacity of Bicentennial Park?
I don't know if that
But it's not
qualifies.
even Bicentennial Park, it's just a parking
You
lot.
can put more in Walmart than you can in Charlotte Motor Speedway.
You can. But any of them, I mean, if we're blocking off one end of a street and another end of the street, is that not the same thing as far as the governor is concerned? I'm not sure. I'm just throwing that out there.
May I make a recommendation, we don't invite the governor to this event?
That works for me.
We'll leave that to Mr. Gregson's interpretation.
Yes. There we go.
I would like to say that we are talking about downtown Asheboro businesses who
Yeah.
have been at 50% capacity or less
Yeah.
for 6 months. And we'd like for these businesses to still be here a year from now. They need a boost.
Yeah.
That's really what downtown Asheboro is asking for,
Yeah.
is that we give these folks some help. This is a way to do it, and it's a way to show some support for our fellow businesses, neighbors, friends, and it really does not hurt us at all in the process.
And I'm all on board with that. I just throwing that out there with whatever restrictions we're supposed to be living
One
on.
of the things I did forget to mention, in the provisions that if alcohol was permitted in these areas, and even probably going forward, even if it isn't, one of the provisions we have as Downtown Asheboro in that permit application that we're gonna make the business fill out is they cannot exceed their already 100% maximum occupancy in their area. Does that make sense? So they're cut at 50% now. If they have, the pig, I think, has 65. She can't have more than 65 people outside in addition to that. So they can't actually go over their maximum occupancy that would be inside.
Combined.
I don't know if that's a big.
Combined,
deal.
yes. They
Inside
can.
and outside.
She can have
She
six.
can't exceed her inside occupancy.
What difference does that really make?
It limits the number of people that can sit outside, even then.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Let's clear that up here.
So it's,
All right, if she has
She
let's
now
do
ha-
round numbers.
No, we don't.
If a restaurant has an indoor occupancy of 100,
yes,
all right, she cannot exceed that indoors and outdoors.
correct,
Okay, so 50 outside and 50% inside.
correct,
That's 50 people inside is 50%, and another 50 outside meets her maximum occupancy of 100.
yes, correct.
All right, and I'm saying her just because the pig's in my mind.
It's okay.
So, all right, indoors and outdoors cannot exceed the total indoor occupancy.
That would be normal in a non-COVID situation.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And that is somewhere in there, I don't know where, but it's somewhere in there.
What type of liquor liability coverage do these restaurants carry now?
It's usually a $1 million policy that, their liquor liability comes first. If they list the city as additionally insured, yours would come second. I know when I was in Lexington, it was flip-flopped. It was the business came first, then it was uptown Lexington. I'm getting used to saying downtown now. It was uptown Lexington second, then the city third. So we had to actually y'all were the third one down the line because we're technically hosting the event. And that could be the same here too.
But my question really was about, this is not an additional burden to a restaurant that already.
No.
I mean, if they're serving alcohol, they're carrying $1 million liability policy now.
Yes.
All they have to do is amend it to list additional insureds.
Yes, yes.
For some just got some clarification for the occupancy. So currently, as we stand, restaurants are at 50% occupancy. So let's say, for example, the Pig had 100 people occupancy. They have to serve, they can serve no more than 50 inside the restaurant, but they can serve an additional 50 outside.
That's just what we said.
Yeah.
I think he stepped away.
I stepped away, sorry, but I just want to make sure that
Okay,
was clear.
yeah, we're good with that.
Okay, great, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be ugly. But that's just exactly what we just said. We're past that point, aren't we?
Great, sorry.
And just
pulled out.
a question, Rebecca, if I may, on the liquor liability or liquor serving request, when we get to that point next month. You're looking at just a one-day event. This is not a request to allow street service for as long as we have street seating, is it?
No.
It's just a one-day.
This is an event-based application that will be, it isn't something that will go year-round. They can't do it on whatever the next weekend is, the 14th. They can't do it on, Thanksgiving weekend. It would basically be, we're holding an event, and they can do it during this event, and they have to make all these minimum requirements during that event to be able to serve. Now, if they're not willing to provide the minimum insurance, which I can't imagine anybody doesn't have this. I've talked to several restaurants, and they already have, these minimum, it's just standard business practices to have $1 million policies. But if for some reason they weren't willing to provide it, they can't participate because then that liability would fall on someone else. So they have to provide that first.
One Saturday night a month.
Yep.
And until you decide not to have the event.
So if we're still having
Good way.
50% occupancy in March next year,
Yeah.
because the governor says that's what we have to do, we may be saying in March, we're wanting to still do this to help shore up our restaurant.
Tonight, the evening news tonight said that Greensboro had extended theirs into December.
And I think theirs were supposed to end in October. I think they've extended it into November from what I've heard. And these rules and kind of guidelines that I've come together with on any of these, even, just dining on the street versus alcohol, it comes from a conglomerate of different cities that provided information to me on how that they do this. Even small town Main Street programs all the way up to, I was talking to Winston-Salem just to make sure that we would be fully covered on all this and to make sure that, it's just done like the big guys so we don't get stuck with the little guys.
May I ask, Mr. Mayor, this is not me, I need time to look at the materials, so I'm not advocating a position. I do want to understand that I've heard the term alcoholic beverages. The city ordinance draws distinctions between malt beverages, unfortified wine, and mixed beverages, liquor.
I'm asking
What
for it all.
are you asking for?
I'm asking for it all.
Ultimately, what the restaurant does indoors, we like them to be able to do their expanded seating area outdoors.
Correct.
So if
It would be all alcoholic beverages, not just beer and wine.
In all fairness, about 3 months ago, when it first started getting really, really bad, 4 months ago, whenever the state legislature addressed this, and they considered doing a blanket policy of some sort, or ordinance amendment, state law, that would allow cities to do this. And there were a lot of questions and a lot of back and forth, so they ended up dropping it. and passing it to the individual communities to make their own, choice. And we, John and I had this conversation earlier, and I've had conversations, as early as 4 months ago with restaurateurs in Asheboro that just felt like they needed some sort of help, to weather this restriction of 50%. That, well, one restaurant says, you know, we're supporting 2 families in this restaurant, and 50% is not gonna do that.
We're not asking for anything that is not already done in Ashboro, we're just asking you to extend it. It's already there in the restaurants, it's already being sold, it's just an extension of that one day, specifically November 7th at the moment.
Put it out on the street.
I'm sorry?
Put it out on the street.
Yes, in a sanctioned off area, extension of their outdoor dining, because we have some that already have outdoor dining. And it would just actually go further into the sidewalk and then further into the streets.
Jeff, back to your question just a moment. Perhaps, as a sense of clarity, or each individual place has their own individual license, and it designates what they can sell.
Correct.
And I assume that whatever there's, it would mirror whatever's inside. I mean, and that's what would be extended. I mean, if they're not licensed for liquor by the drink inside, then they're just beer and wine outside too.
Correct.
Right, the reason I have to address it is because the city code specifically separates it out in saying you can't have unfortified wine, you can't have malt beverages out on the public streets, city-owned property, public rights-of-way. And the city code currently is very specific in saying that prohibition includes any portion of a street that's closed off for a special event. It goes ahead and addresses that and prohibits it. So you can see how, that's why I have to get into the specific, you make a very good point, it's a valid point, but dealing with what's on the books currently, it'll have to be addressed in some manner.
I would think that would be the expectation, and then the accommodation based on what you've outlined.
One application for all the events, or a different one, a new one each time?
It's good for a year.
Okay.
Again, I think I put that in there.
And it may be, I haven't read it.
It's okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, Rebecca, I didn't hear you. This is for a year?
It would be, so if we did it on November 7th, and then come March, whatchamacallit, you know,
Yeah.
and we're still in this situation, and we decide, hey, it's getting warmer, can we do it again? And I wouldn't require them to fill out, provided nothing has changed. There's also, if their insurance, the insurance is the big part of this, that they have to notify us if their insurance changes. And that's also in there that they would have to
So
sign.
next November, we would expect them to, apply again.
Yes,
On November 8th next year, they would have to fill out a whole.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
But for purposes of clarity, just to understand what's being asked of the council tonight, is the request only for November the 7th?
Correct.
Is that that's what you're asking tonight?
Closing the streets for.
that's all I'm asking tonight is closing
Only
the
that
streets,
one date is
no
what you're
alcohol.
asking for tonight?
All right, and
And asking for a next council meeting for you to address the possible
we'll
ordinance
take care of that
changes.
in a second. We'll ask them.
Two separate.
Well, any more questions about the actual closing of the street for the November 7th event?
Here again, just for clarity, for the clerk that's taking the minutes. So the request is for the 7th, talking only about the street closure, is for the 7th, and we always make a reference to a map for what this council is actually voting to close. You're tying it to the map that is actually displayed at this point, is that correct? So we print that out, that's what's to be closed.
Is there anyone on council that is prepared to make a motion to grant this request? Sorry, hate this. I'll entertain a motion to grant this request for the street closing as indicated on this map.
Mayor, I move we close the streets of Sunset and as directed on the map on November 7th from the hours stated in the application.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Bill, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I hate to interrupt. when you say hours, is that when you actually want the event to start?
11 to 3, so 10 to 4.
So that's what the city crews will need time to block off streets, so that's the time that you move will have to be that broader time period.
Is that sufficient time?
In my experience, no. At the beginning of it, at the end of it, yes. I don't know how it is in Ashford to get the cars off the street.
Same as it is everywhere.
Okay, then my request actually is probably for 9 o'clock that morning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll have to have a street blocked to stop that.
What's the parking limit on, Sunset?
2 hours,
So if you wanted to
Not on
start.
Saturday,
not on Saturday.
Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Um,
No limit on Saturday.
May want to address, I don't know if you can address that, is that leave it to Public Works to decide
Well, the council has to state when they're telling Public Works they're authorized to shut down the street.
You're talking about a daytime event.
Yes, sir.
Not evening, just, from, dinner, lunchtime hours from 11 to
3.
3. All right.
I just say 8 to 4, I mean, they gotta get their chairs and stuff out and all
Yeah,
that
they
kind
gotta be
split
blocking the street,
hairs
setting
over an
tables
hour
and
or
chairs up, and so Public Works is gonna start at 8 o'clock probably.
Yeah. And they're very good at it.
Jeff, you have a recommendation there?
As long as, I just want to be careful not to, I know you've spoken with the businesses, the other businesses, when things start being shut down, so,
Oh, yeah, we'll hear from them.
and that's why I'll ask, the time was thrown out, and I'll ask Mr. Bell since he made the
I'll
motion.
amend my motion to accommodate the request from 8 to 4.
8 to 4. And is the second still in place for that?
Sure.
Okay. Any further discussion?
We had discussed some things on Church Street as well. Do we need to include that in our motion with a couple of areas there that
The
we
map
looked at?
does not show Church Street.
No, it does not.
If we call that up, we can, if she finds favor for, interest, they can submit that on
next council.
next council meeting as well, I suppose.
Extend it then.
'Cause it's a,
It would just
if
be the parking
they're
lot.
thinking along the lines of what I suggested, that's a much more minor
Yeah.
mechanism.
I think
to get that in place.
Linda's concern was the other end of church where the bakery and the Heaven Sent gift shop and whatnot, they may. But nothing would prohibit them from having their stuff on
I will say,
Exactly.
in talking with those folks, as a general rule, they don't like to see Church Street closed.
We're just talking about the parking alley.
Parking
Parking
areas,
spaces
and have a little bit of extra space just to set up some.
Yeah, if we coned off a couple of parking places in front of those, it just gives them the sidewalk and the width of a parking place and doesn't close the street. Okay,
We can get some, we can inquire of those businesses before the next council meeting, and if that is something they desire to have done, we can add that to the request.
And if Positanos wants to have the farmer's market, then they speak up and say so, and we'll look at it.
Would that be satisfactory, Linda?
I didn't hear what you were saying.
I'm sorry, we can poll those business owners on Church and see if they would like to have the additional space for the sidewalk and the parking spots to be able to kind of expand out into the street, as well as like Positanos, and the table, if they would like to have some additional space.
they can have their sidewalk.
And we can add that to our,
And I'm really, and it doesn't just concern Church Street, I just brought that one up, but then you got, businesses that are there on, Benson Street as well. The only other thing about blocking these parking spaces off early, is we need to make sure that these business people that are normally parking in front of their own businesses, that they don't go down and park on Church Street in front of these other businesses. And I've seen that happen before, then you get them blocked off.
I believe we can address that with some, basically a flyer to go out to those businesses as we have in the past and direct them to park on North Street, to alleviate some of that issue. But we,
And I would also consider a handicap parking in there somewhere.
okay. Does the city have some temporary handicap parking? We could throw some of those out. in some areas, get them closer proximity.
And we have handicap spaces right in the lot here.
Yeah, and, yeah, we do have the handicap here at City Hall.
I would make one recommendation on your map. I would, on the lower end of Bicentennial, I would move that closure barricade at Academy Street up to the right-hand separation right behind the pig,
Behind Four Saints?
the Four Saints, I'm sorry, and only close half that lot. That way you have traffic that can get in and out, and you can put some handicap right there at the back of your building in the Bicentennial lot, right up against the barricade.
Yeah.
That's as close as you can get handicap, with what you've got, and that way, that parking there is still in play, and just shorten the line there at the stage. Just close one half. And down to the sidewalk coming out of the Four Saints.
Okay,
And that gives,
that other side
that gives you
accessibility.
that whole, for the health food place, what are they called?
Key to healthy.
Eat Healthy.
Key.
Obviously, I don't know that. And popcorn ice cream people if they decide to participate, and the Four Saints.
Yep.
So, I just think traffic flows better if you can leave half of that open.
I don't think that'll be a problem.
Can we amend the map to show that? All right. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment to my original request, is the amendment of the map as presented by the mayor.
I'll accept it as a burdensome second. Can we move on?
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Okay, your first request has been approved, and we will work toward that. Council, if everyone is, in agreement, we can ask staff to research the second request and come back to us next month, with a proposal and recommendation.
It would actually be preferable to have a motion directing
Okay.
that.
Mayor, I would move that we direct staff to adopt a proposal for our consideration as it relates to the sales and service of alcohol.
Okay.
Relative to our closing action pursuant to our previous motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Are you good on the motion?
Yes, and with your permission, we're going to interpret that, Madam Clerk, as being a motion directing the staff, specifically including the city attorney, to draft ordinance provisions addressing the service of alcoholic beverages in public rights-of-way that are closed for special events. That way it can apply more
You
generally.
know, that's what I meant, Jeff.
With your permission. That's
Yeah.
what we'll-
That's what I heard.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Where was the second? Thank you, Katie. Second by Ms. Snuggs. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And,
Thank y'all.
This is good news. I'm glad you're here.
Really glad to be here.
We're excited.
We're glad to have it.
Yep, great. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Mr. Evans is standing in for our Community Development Director Trevor Nuttall tonight. And 6A is a legislative hearing, which I will open. It's an application for rezoning, RZ 20-10 to rezone property at the northern corner of East Allred and Gold Hill Road. Mr. Evans, have at it, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, thank you, and good evening to council. The applicant in this case is Mr. Michael Samero. The property in question is located along East Allred Street and Gold Hill Road. The request is to rezone from a conditional use, general commercial to an R10 medium density residential district. The request involves just a portion of one parcel identification number that's just over 2 acres. The entire tract is approximately 2 1/3 acres, and the tract is currently undeveloped. So to show you on the first map, the property's the red shaded parcel, and so you'll see that's the lone commercial parcel in this area, and then surrounding the property you have in yellow R10 medium density residential that's within the city limits. That's the Robbins Nest subdivision. And then further to the west, you have that orange colored parcel. That's a conditional use, high density residential. There have been some townhomes proposed at that location. And then off to the south and east, you also have residentially designated and used properties. That is outside of the city's jurisdiction within Randolph County zoning. So the next map shows you a closer view of the property and the adjoining properties. Going on to the next map, you'll see as far as the topography, and you'll see this in the photographs as well, the steepest part of the property is to the south along East Coleridge Street. It does level more as you get into the interior of the property and the northern side of the property. And in terms of utilities, we have water that runs along East Coleridge Street that basically stops at the kind of southwestern corner of the property, and then sewer that runs to the western edge of the property, kind of in the middle there that you see by that green line. Looking at the aerial photograph, you can see the surrounding residential uses, single-family uses primarily, and then some undeveloped property as well, just generally lower to medium density residential uses. So if we're looking at the property from the ground, the first photo shows you if you're looking along Gold Hill Road to the north, and then East Coleridge Street is off to the left. The subject property is right in front of you there. This next photo shows you looking along East Coleridge Street if you're headed west away from Gold Hill Road. This is looking north on Gold Hill Road. The subject property is off to your left. Then this is looking south on Gold Hill Road. Property's off to the right. Also, East Coleridge Street is off to the right. So you can see, again, more lower density residential in this direction. This is looking east on East Coleridge Street toward the Gold Hill Road intersection. And then this last photo shows you the view looking west on East Coleridge Street. So you see single-family residential uses are what primarily surround the property. The property is within the city limits, and as you saw on the map, city water and sewer are adjacent to the property, but if there were any subdivision of the property into more than the one parcel that you see, that would likely require for the owner to extend those utilities in a way that's consistent with city policy. There's a number of ways they could do it, but it would be the developer who would need to do that typically. And then as far as transportation, both East Coleridge Street and Gold Hill Road, they're classified as state-maintained minor thoroughfares. So just to give a little history of why this property is just sitting out here as the lone commercial property, this was rezoned back in 2006. It was previously R10, so that they're asking for it to go back to that same designation, but there was no conditional use permit requested. So as it's currently zoned, that would require a conditional use permit for any development on the property, and the district would generally not allow for residential uses outside of some very limited, like a use like a caretaker or security dwelling, something of that nature. The requested R10 zoning allows for single-family and two-family dwellings if lot size requirements are met, and so that also applies to the adjoining parcels to the north and the west as well. So it's not different than those adjoining parcels. We did in 2015, as you're aware, amend the land development plan, and so the recommendations in this general area were amended as well. So previously, this property was a part of a village activity center. That was a larger area that was envisioned to be more, with some commercial uses. That really never materialized as it was envisioned in 2000. And the adjoining parcels were also designated for urban residential. So we've seen really a different kind of pattern take hold in this area. If we look at the zoning ordinance and how it describes the current district and then the requested district, the underlying B2 district is intended to serve the convenience goods, shoppers goods, retail, and service needs of the motoring public, both local and transient. And this district should always be located with access directly to minor thoroughfares or higher classification streets, but never local residential streets. So then, if we look at the requested district, which is R10, it is intended to provide regulations which will produce a moderate intensity of residential uses, usually single-family or two-family in character, and served by central water supply and sewage disposal systems, plus necessary governmental and other support facilities to service such urban intensity living. The property, of course, is in the eastern area, and it is within the primary growth area. We had, when we look more closely at some specific goals and policies in our land development plan, we believe 5 are supportive of the request and just 2 that are negative toward the request. So when we look overall at the request and we weigh whether it's consistent with the adopted land development plan and whether we would consider it reasonable and in the public interest, we have several reasons that we believe support the request. First of all, the property was previously designated R10, and we have had the CUB2 district applied on the property for 14 years with no conditional use permit request. And also, we basically see this as a downzoning of the property back to residential, so we really don't see a conflict with the land development plan and taking it back to a residential use. And finally, we would believe this is supported because it will allow a viable use of the property without creating an unnecessary conditional use permit process if it's going to be consistent with the surrounding zoning. Given that analysis, staff's recommendation is to approve the request. The planning board also considered this during their meeting last month, and they also unanimously recommended approval. So you have the consistency statement and the rezoning request to consider as part of your motion. But before that, I'll be glad to take any questions if the council has them.
Question?
My only shock is Dollar General didn't find them. They are clearly the champion of the village center concept.
No questions? Okay. Anyone here that is here to speak for the request?
Good evening. I'm Michael Somero from Trinity, North Carolina, owner of the property. Bought it with my wife in the Great Recession time, thinking it would be a long-term investment for the commercial use. Talking to commercial realtors at that time, they thought it was probably residential would be the best use. Talking to them again this year, they're still maintaining that now and looking, into the future, residential will be the best use. So that's why we're considering rezoning it. Short term, it would save a little on our tax bill each year, and then that area has been pretty, with Robin's Nest, there's more building going on those lots, and they're extending that subdivision. So it's possible if this was turned into residential lots here in 2020 or 2021 that there would be a market for them now. He did a great job. I did pull the mileage to Dollar General, and it seemed like they were a little too close. So.
I wasn't aware that was possible, but I'm glad you did.
It doesn't appear possible on Fayetteville Street. On another one down here.
But thank you for considering it, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We would like to see that developed also, residential, I think. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Council, I'll entertain a motion to address the consistency statement.
Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind just inquiring for the record to make sure there's no one else.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to address the council on this request? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
My name is Anne Marie Sabatino, and my house, most of my property abuts this piece of property. And if that was turned into commercial,
You would not be happy.
no, not at all, because I'd be having to look at my back porch would face, and I had a custom-built house there.
All right, so you're telling us you support this request?
Yes, I do, 100%.
Thank you very
So
much.
do all my neighbors who couldn't be here because they work nights.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, would you mind putting your name down just so the clerk will have it for the records? There's a spot there.
Is there a pen up there?
No,
Oh, sorry, give it a pen. And this is just so that when we transcribe the record, we know how to spell your name,
okay.
so you can print. That's not as easy as Smith.
No, but phonetically, Sabatino.
I could probably do that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, now, council, what are your wishes?
Mayor, based on the reasoning of staff, I move that we approve the rezoning request and based on the consistency statement provided by staff.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve each part of this. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second, Ms. Redding. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck, sir. Thank you for being here, ma'am. Item 6B is I will open a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Program. John, you presenting this?
Yes, Mayor, you got to click on it. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. So, Mayor, just report to the council that Trevor Nuttall's been under the weather. We all wish him best wishes, and I'm sure he's watching this on video tonight, and get back soon. Don't worry about us, but take care of yourself and get back soon. The North Carolina Community Development Block Grant COVID program, CV program, is designed to help units of local government respond to and recover from the health and economic impacts of COVID-19, some of which we just worked on earlier with the downtown businesses and the restaurants. This program will assist non-entitlement cities and areas across the state, which include unincorporated incorporated municipalities under 50,000 and counties under 200,000, including public service, public facilities, and special economic activities. The NC Commerce will award on a first-come, first-served basis, with the focus on local needs identified in the community with collaboration with state and local health officials. And the state will initially provide about $28.5 million in funds from the U.S. Housing and Urban Development to support these responses. Our application requests $900,000 in these funds to provide up to 6 months of subsistence payments on behalf of individuals and families to prevent service disconnection or evictions, service disconnection from utilities, or evictions from rent or mortgages, generally for the purpose of preventing homelessness. Additionally, the city plans to appropriate funds for food distribution and support, including both meal delivery and food bank pantry services. Now, there has been a lot of hunger, and people are short of food here. When you're short of wages, obviously you're short of food. And that's a real need right now. And we think that we've estimated about 300 households could receive assistance, and 500 individuals can or will obtain food. and 51% of the persons benefiting, as with all CDBG programs, will have to be low to moderate income. And obviously, our goal was to protect the most vulnerable and high-risk populations. The city will match with $20,000 to this public service program, bringing the total to $920,000 if funded. $70,000 or 7.75% is proposed for administration, and this proposes an additional $20,000 for administrative costs. Our goal is to partner with the United Way of Randolph County to help with application intake. Now, as you know, we do not do food assistance, we do not do public health, we do not do social services, we do not mental health. Those are county functions. However, we have asked the United Way, who does do those things, and obviously lots of us have served on the United Way board or the program committee, where you go and look at the various departments and look at the grant recipients and see how they fund. So we know they can reach, it's 17-member organizations, and they can reach the most vulnerable population in our community. And they are obviously experienced in managing multiple grants, and they oversee funding, and they can meet all the reporting requirements. As with all federal programs, there's a lot of reporting requirements. And the United Way already has a 19-person board that is connected to the community, knows what the needs of the community are, and the partners agency are required to show proof, obviously, of 501c nonprofit classification. So their boards meet regularly themselves. Their agencies have proof an outside audit, and they detail information concerning the demographics of the clients they serve, their partnership with agencies complementary to their mission, and the proof of their effectiveness in their clients' lives. As you know, also, just as a side note, the city annually runs a United Way campaign. We're in the throes of that now. So we hope to be standing up here in a few months and having a good report, don't we, John? Yes, sir. So, next slide, please, John. So, Mayor, at this time, this is a public hearing, and we'd also ask anybody here to speak for or against it. And Elizabeth Mitchell, our Executive Director and President of the United Way, is here to also speak for this. And in your package, you've seen we had lots of letters of support from our local agencies.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. What a joy it is for me to be here because I don't get to come often. So this is a real joy because we have been working for the last 6 months or so with all of our agencies and all of our folks in Randolph County. And I want to just say this, how fortunate we all are. We all have jobs. We all have food on the table, and we are blessed. However, what we have seen during COVID has been extremely sad. Has been sad to go to CUOC and help with the food lines that are there and be at the drive-through when folks are coming to get food. And these are folks that you and I would probably meet in our church, would meet on the street, people that we know that are in our community. So this block grant would be an incredible gift to our citizens here in Asheboro. And United Way will do everything that we can to work with all of our agencies and to work with different groups in the community outside of our partner agencies to say, let's reach more people, let's get out there. Just an example, the soup kitchen is doing incredible work right now. We work directly with the soup kitchen. And I just talked to Jean today. Over 149 people were there today for lunch. We all ate our lunch. We all sat down. We were all fed today. That may be the only meal these folks have. So if we can say, yes, let's do this together, I would say thank you to the council. The community would say thank you. And of course, if you are awarded that grant, we will do everything that we can do to support the city and to support our community. So I will be happy to take any questions. Obviously, they've gone through the process of putting the application together. I did take the opportunity to read the whole application. Had too many questions for Trevor, bless his heart, and John, but they answered all of my questions. And the United Way is set and ready to work with you and do what we can. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we thank you for running our campaign. We're all there this year, so if that $1 million giver is sitting in here, walk him off it. What do you think? $1 million to the United Way campaign?
Smith would do an excellent job here.
Why, thank you, Mr. Smith, I appreciate that. And you know,
Greatly appreciated.
yes, and you know I joke about it, but guess what? One day I may come up here and say, somebody actually gave $1 million, and you know what? It would go right back into our community. But I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and chat with you all. Yes,
You, Elizabeth.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate your work, your dedication, and we look forward to working with you on this.
Mayor, if I could ask a question.
Yes.
Elizabeth, did I understand you to say that it will not be necessarily a member organization?
That's
It will be
correct.
available to other
Yes,
501c3s?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there anyone else in the room, audience, that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, John?
Mayor, before you close the public hearing, I would, further down our agenda, you'll see that our finance officer, Ms. Reeves, has a report about using some of the city's COVID allotment that we got from the county. Remember that a few months ago? And these funds are not that money. This is a whole different pot of money designed to push out through the city, through using a partner agency to push out to help those people most needy in need. I would add to what Elizabeth said. I listened in on the Senior Adults Association, one of our partner agencies across the street, to their annual meeting last week, which was over the conference call. And they had served, since the middle of March, they had served 50,000 Meals on Wheels. Now, when you think there's 145,000 people in Randolph County, that really puts that number in perspective, doesn't it? So we think the needs there, Mayor, and we would ask that you approve the application, close the public hearing, and approve the application.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could ask John a question.
Yes.
John, going back to your first slide, I understand we're going to match the 900,000 request by 20, and then there was another 20 for, so is our total 40, or is it?
No, our-
20
our-
we're going for the,
Administration.
okay.
And then we can
It's 20
use,
total, but that's how it'll be allocated.
right, then we can use 70 of that, 970 can be used for administration and for the United Way to vet people if we don't know who they are. I mean, obviously, if senior adults comes in for a request, they're vetted, but there may be an agency that they need to vet. And then, of course, as we said earlier, there's a lot of bookkeeping and accounting.
Great. Any other comments? Council?
Mayor, I move we approve the resolution by reference to, for the city to submit the application.
Motion by Councilman Bell to approve by reference. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. Thank you very much. Of all the things that we do and are allowed to consider from month to month, this, I'm sure, is probably ranks right on up there with the most important in this day that we live. It's frustrating times. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Unanimous approval. Motion carries. Thank you, and we look forward to partnering with you. Maybe our application will bear fruit. We can get started with this. How long before you would hear from the application?
I think it's by the middle of November. They intend to push the money out very fast. This is part of the original, these funds, Mr. Mayor, before we go beyond this, I'm sorry. These funds are part of the original, one of the original COVID acts by Congress. You may have seen in the news, of course, the third act or whatever, they're having trouble organizing around, but this is already legislated and the state has some money and the state wants to disperse it by the end of the year.
Okay, item 6C, I will open a public hearing for discussion and public comments concerning the proposed issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by the Burlington Housing Authority. for the benefit of Coleridge Road Apartments.
Mayor, if you'll open the public hearing, which you did. John, if you'll run the slides. Mayor, I'll introduce Mr. Bristol. He's an attorney, and Ms. Kirby are our guests. There are attorneys representing the Burlington Housing Authority and the Bond Council. And, of course, we know our Asheboro Housing Authority Executive Director, Bob Lawler, and our friend and fellow public servant. The Vitus Group is a national affordable housing developer, and they're based in Seattle, Washington. And this year it purchased a portfolio of 8 affordable housing apartment complexes located in 7 North Carolina cities. And those are Asheboro, Burlington, Goldsboro, Greenville, Lewisburg, Smithfield, and Rockingham. And they purchased the one in Asheboro's Coleridge Road Apartments, and its headquarters is Kemp Boulevard off Highway 64. I know most of you don't know Kemp Boulevard. It's only about that big, but that's where the office is. The apartment complex has currently 100 units. Vitus proposes to use the low-income housing tax credits and tax-exempt multifamily housing bonds to refinance the acquisition of the property and to renovate it. That's an important piece of this proposal. They propose to renovate it. And in August, the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency awarded Vitus low-income housing tax credits and bond volume capacity not to exceed $7.5 million. And they've requested through the Burlington Housing Authority, they issue the bonds. So Burlington Housing Authority would issue the bonds as the conduit or the pass-through for the issuer for their entire portfolio, including the units we mentioned in the other cities. And under North Carolina law, NCGS 15710, multiple housing authorities can cooperate with one another to issue multifamily housing bonds for affordable housing and projects. And on August 20th, the Asheboro Housing Authority Board of Commissioners authorized Asheboro Housing Authority to enter into a local agreement with the Burlington Housing Authority, and that agreement authorizes Burlington Housing Authority to issue the bonds and use the money here in Asheboro. Per the general statutes, North Carolina Asheboro City Councils were requested to hold a public hearing and then consider the approval of the bonds. Now, both the hearing and approval are required by federal law, and neither the city nor the housing authority faces any liability in connection with the bond. So you may remember 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we did the same thing for the Asheboro Summit, remember? And they renovated Asheboro Summit with those bonds. So this is the same process. We welcome our guests, and you come up and you can speak and have more details. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interrupting. Go right ahead. I apologize for interrupting. I'm sure all these will be experienced individuals who probably, I don't need to say this, but the deputy clerk has been given a document where she needs to list the names and addresses of who speaks, so we would appreciate it if people would list their names and addresses on the paper that's provided up there. I apologize for standing in your way.
Okay, thank you. Eric Prestel, I'm a partner with the Banks Law Firm in Durham, North Carolina. We represent the Burlington Housing Authority, which has been working in collaboration with the Asheboro Housing Authority to produce or yield the preservation of affordable housing at this development. The city manager, he took all of my thunder. I don't have much to add to it, except that the developer out of Seattle, Vitus, proposes to invest roughly $45,000 per unit in rehabbing the development. A lot of exterior and interior components will be rehabbed. They have a bona fide security plan. They understand that the property right now is challenged, and they are stepping up to invest significant capital to ensure that the property is a sustainable asset here in Asheboro. I will underscore something that the city manager mentioned, which is the last point in your slide, and that is that the city of Asheboro does not face any liability in connection with this conduit issuance. In addition, the Burlington Housing Authority and the Asheboro Housing Authority also will not face any liability in connection with the transaction. So it's a pure pass-through. Are there any questions?
That's a considerable amount per door. That's, I think that's exceptional. Hope this is very successful.
That is very good news for us. We're excited for this and, welcome. It's welcome news. It is challenged, as you say.
Yes.
Any questions? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
If you will, just put,
Ms. Carter.
Ms. Carter?
I do, what happens to these people as you renovate their apartment? What do you do, as far as their housing?
Yeah, my understanding is that the developer will do a rolling renovation, so they'll make some units available for temporary relocation, but all will not be displaced at the same time.
Okay.
All right, all right.
What was her question? I didn't hear it. What was it?
Question
People that
was-
are living there, where do they go while the renovation is? And they said they'll rotate them with vacant units.
They'll move them into
Yeah,
another
yeah.
unit temporarily
Yeah,
while
I,
they're
yeah,
units.
I have a sister that lives there, and that's what they told her, that they would make sure she had a place to move to.
Okay,
All right,
yes.
okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you,
It's good to have you here tonight. Thank you.
thank you. Glad to be here.
Next,
I think they've covered it all, so if you want to go.
I'll be quick. In January of this year, we were approached by Burlington Housing Authority regarding the bond issue for Coleridge Apartments. We worked on it for several months, and then the virus hit, and things got slowed down. In August, the board met with our attorneys after talking with the bank's law firm, Burlington Housing Authority, and they adopted the the one resolution that the city manager talked about, which was the financing agreement, which allows Burlington Housing Authority to act on our behalf to issue the bonds, since they're the vehicle for the developer, and we would cooperate with them in working with bond counsel to issue the bonds. The other document was the interlocal cooperation agreement, in which we continue to work with Burlington Housing Authority, and then once the Coleridge Apartments are in service, we would monitor through the Housing Authority staff that people are qualified to live in the subsidized housing, the assisted housing, and that income and all other requirements are met. We're paid a fee, and we work with them until the project is over. So the Board of Commissioners for the Housing Authority unanimously adopted these two documents, and we're on board with them. The bonds haven't been issued, and so there's still a few minor issues to deal with, but I'm here tonight just to say we support the project. I think it's a great idea.
questions of Mr. Lawler?
Mr. Lawler, I'm sorry, Mr. Lawler, we all know who you are, but if you would, for the audio recording, if you would mind stating your name and title.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert Lawler, Asheboro Housing Authority,
Give us an address also.
338 West Wayman Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, would you like to?
I'm happy to, but I think.
Not necessary for me.
Yeah, just be repeating what
Okay, all right.
all the gentlemen have said.
Is there anyone else in the House that would like to address the council regarding this request for the resolution? Hearing none, we'll ask the council for their thoughts.
Mayor, I move we approve the resolution, or adopt the resolution by reference, approving in principle the issuance of the bonds.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell to approve the resolution by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Snuggs, thank you very much.
Amen.
Any discussion?
I have high expectations given the presentation. I think this
yeah.
should be very, very successful.
Truly hope so.
Yep, we're excited about it.
Depends on what
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank y'all for being here tonight, and thank you, tell your clients, thank you for the interest in our city. We are very excited to see this property renovated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe going home.
Okay, item 7, Mr. Leonard here? Okay. We have a petition from Kenneth and Bridget Yalmore requesting annexation. I will open a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was presented to you at the September council meeting, city council meeting, and a resolution has been properly advertised. Now is the time for the public hearing. And that you've already opened it. We have an annexation ordinance prepared by the city attorney, making the annexation available upon adoption, and staff recommends adoption by reference.
Okay. Is there anyone in the House that would like to address the council regarding this annexation request?
Mr. Mayor, just for the record, the applicant's not required to be here because the application speaks for itself.
And this is another improvement in that part of town.
Yes, sir.
So, we're always excited to annex property, commercial property like this. So, any questions? I'll entertain a motion to extend the ordinance to corporate limits of the city of Asheboro by reference. Is that?
Yep, Mayor, I move we approve the ordinance by reference extending the city limits of Asheboro.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell to adopt by reference. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Finance Director, Ms. Reeves. She is coming to request approval of an ordinance to amend the water sewer fund.
Good evening. The reason why this ordinance to amend the water and sewer fund is not on the consent agenda is because it is very special in nature, in the aspect that I am requesting funds that I want to use to to enter into a contract with a company to help us with a document management system so that we can safely take care of our customers' needs for signing in for service and out for service without them having to come into the office. Right now, we've been doing all of this over email because our office is not set up to allow for good social distancing. And the process is cumbersome. Customers don't have printers at home, so they have to come here, take applications from the building, fill them out, take pictures of them with their phone, send them back into us. It's time consuming because you don't get all the documents at one time. You'll get one piece, even though you give them a list, you'll get one piece here and another piece here, and it takes a little bit of time. Well, I've been researching, since it looks like this is going to be a longer process as far as being closed than we initially thought. I've been researching different systems. And I have found one that will allow us to develop a form online that will be secure. It will protect all of the encrypt and protect all of the sensitive information that customers need, like draft information, social security number, things like that, that they are on the applications. And it walks them through the process. They won't have to have a printer at home. It works on any type of device, meaning it can work on your phone, it can work on your tablet, it can work on a computer. And so I feel like this is important for us to be able to continue to offer good service to our citizens, our customers, and protect them. I am going to, if you approve this request for funding, it is, I'm asking for $6,000, and that just covers getting the system up and running. I'm going to ask for reimbursement from the city allocated funds for COVID protection, like when I submit to the Randolph County for reimbursement for the PPE stuff we've been doing, the safety barriers and things like that. But because it's representing a bigger picture than the normal, that's why I wanted to present it to you guys in person and give you an opportunity to ask questions to see if you had any, or if you don't have any, I entertain a motion to approve the ordinance to amend the Water and Sewer Fund to allow for an appropriation of $6,000 for me to allow me to have funds to enter into a contract.
Questions? Discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
Mayor, I move we adopt the ordinance to amend the Water and Sewer Fund by reference.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell to adopt this ordinance by reference. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Reeves.
Thank you.
I know these are trying times that you're operating in.
Well, we're learning and we're growing.
Appreciate your hard work, and pass our appreciation on to your staff, because it is not easy doing what they're doing.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will share that with them.
Thank you. Okay, item 9, we have two possible real estate acquisitions to discuss tonight. Almost a year ago, maybe not quite that long, John and I were approached by the Asheboro Women's Club. And they are concerned about the longevity and sustainability going forward of the gatekeeper's house. As you know, this was the actual gatekeeper's house at the Fisher Estate, which my understanding was located down here at the end of Park Street, about down where the Courier Tribune is, down around the funeral home area. And it was the gatekeeper's house at the gate to the Fisher Estate. Many, many years ago, it was saved and moved to the property across from Memorial Park, Memorial Swimming Pool, there on Lanier Street. It has been restored. It's very nice inside. They have their monthly meetings there, and Women's Club ebbs and flows like so many community organizations, and many of their people were concerned about going forward the prospect of their ability, the diminishing ability to maintain it, to keep a very interesting and unique piece of Asheboro history viable and in good shape going forward for many, many more years. John, would you like to jump in and help me out here?
If the city council were to accept this gift, we would manage it through the Culture and Recreation Services Department. It could be used for weddings or community events, much like the Asheboro Women's Club uses it now. Basically, the Women's Club fundraisers, you may annually, Santa Claus brings all you guys a Women's Club Christmas ornament. All that money, all the money they make keeps that up. So it's been used for a lot. You may remember, here we are in the election cycle. When Mrs. Clinton ran a few years ago, President Clinton came right there and wasn't on time, but we was well guarded, and so I asked for a police car back up 70 miles an hour to go get him a McDonald's. So, but he had a crowd there. I give him credit for that. So, We would be managing it through that. We do a lot of maintenance out there anyway. We've put gravel in the driveway for the club before. We've trimmed the bushes, things like that. So we have a plan to use it should the council wish to accept it. We would need to authorize we would need to get some council to prepare a deed, a gift deed or a deed to the city. However, we would pay that another council and they'd work with Jeff. So he's not representing two agencies. He still has to look out for the best he's ethically bound to look out for the best for the city. But that would be a nice gift and it'll be permanent, and it is on the, and the Randolph County Register, so,
Be the end of the Christmas decoration?
no, they continue to do that.
Oh,
It just-
actually, Joanne got
Yeah.
one the other day.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first one. I can't remember what it was. You remember?
It's laying right there on the table.
I looked at it, and every year I keep thinking they're running out of something to put on it, but they came up with another good one, but I can't remember what it was.
You know how expectations become.
Well, another 20 years, I'll have enough to do a whole tree. What are your thoughts, council? Any discussion or questions about this?
I can't think of a more fiscally in perpetuity capable owner.
Well, in so many cases,
That's the goal.
the city's in the business of doing things and supporting things that others cannot. And that's what we're good at. We have the maintenance people to maintain it, the facilities, grounds people to look after the grounds, and it's just a logical transition in light of the current number of members of the club.
I applaud the foresight. Usually, what time they come, often things presented to us, it's a Hail Mary.
So I will entertain a motion that we accept this gift from the Asheboro Women's Club to the city of Asheboro, or
Mayor, maybe,
proceed with the
there you go.
title search and the deed preparation and bring it back for a final approval.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Look very attractive in your mask.
Thank you.
You the new Surgeon General.
Okay. Do I need a motion for that?
Yes, sir.
All right. May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we direct staff to explore the possibility of legal acquisition subject to title preparation of the gatekeeper's house.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bell and a second by Ms. Redding. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, John, I'm gonna ask you to fill this one. This has been brought to us for consideration by the owners.
Mayor, this is 149 South Cox Street, and it's owned by Maurice Cox, Mayor Gerald's brother-in-law. Now
You
this,
have a map in
Yeah,
front of
yeah.
you.
the total of, this is, just, the appraised land value is 45,800, or the taxable land value is 45,830. The building value is 50,790. So the total taxable value is $97,210. The city did commission Rubrick and Associates to do an appraisal. We do have correspondence back that the value is the taxable value. It's not, and that's the value. So the tax department's right on in that. To show you where this piece is, you see it on your map. You'll see North Street. Worth Street's here. Cox Street's here. This is Academy Street. This is the police department. We own next door too. That's Human Resources. Is that moving on there, John? It's not, is it?
Nope.
Um,
Moving on our screen anyway.
And then Randolph Crisis Center owns the next two properties, or the Family Crisis Center, and then the corner property there on the corner of South Main and Academy is for sale. But to the north of the corner of South Main and East Academy is a vacant lot. You may require that, remember that the last 18 months or so, we burnt that house down as a training burn. So Mr. Cox has offered the city to purchase this piece, or for that value would be the offer if the council directed us to. You can see it there. Now, in this picture, to the my right-hand side, your right-hand side, that's the driveway we use to get to the property. So if you can imagine on that map, you see that acquisition of the 0.14 acres, you see that shaded spot. We enter on what would be the south side of that, or as you're looking at it, the left side.
The
So-
two little brown bushes.
Yeah.
That's the original driveway to the McCreary property.
To give you more information, of course, that's kind of our footprint on this map of the proposed David and Pauline Gerald Center City Park. Last spring, Mayor Smith and I and the fundraising group met with the NC State Department of Landscape Architecture, one of their faculty members, and we hope to have a faculty master's student or a group of undergraduate students master plan this completely. Obviously, that fell apart as they went from online school. So this spring, we hope to tackle that issue again. We'll see how that goes. So that's all I have to report, Mayor. It's the council needs to think about this in two ways. Is this acquisition a wise use, and probably more broadly, do we need to master plan and make all the property we need and then determine that to be our master plan? Is that, so I know that there's been some council on the staff concern too. We seem to be chopping off a little piece at a time. So I turn it back over to you,
Well,
Mayor.
at this point, since we have not master planned the property, any addition is probably not counterproductive. Once we do a master plan, we need to probably stop buying. As you all know, this is not absolutely necessary for the viability of this Center City Garden. It will add another 0.14 acre to the total property. It will get another little bitty house kind of out of the way, make the property a little more open, which may or may not be a good thing. So they approached us and said that they live in California, right? I believe, John?
Yes.
And they said, would you guys like to buy this? So it's not something we have to do tonight, right?
No, sir, Mayor. It's basically, does the council want us to, I would say tonight we need to, it may be better determined if you give us permission to talk to Mr. Cox, see if he'll take the 97-210, and then, more importantly, probably, John, can you turn that down, please? Then can we master plan it and lay out what our ultimate footprint's going to look like?
All right, so just, you want a motion directing you guys to proceed, with the research? Or can we just think about it for a while?
That's the bottom line, whether y'all have made a policy, the most important thing is for y'all to make a policy decision of what you want to do, and then staff will do whatever you direct after that, and that would be by motion, what you want staff to do.
Mayor, I don't see the need for us to move on this speedily. I mean, I think the value of the property is based on a residence. If we were gonna use it, we're gonna use it for raw acreage.
Yeah.
And I don't see us paying full market value for a house that we're not gonna do anything but tear down at this point, unless it's critical or necessary for the component of the plan that they say, well, we really need this, tenth of an acre or
It's
tenth. half
possible
of
the
an acre.
master plan might say that would be a good
Yeah.
headquarters or welcome center. See, we bought the other house right behind PD with the idea that that would be a welcome center, education, welcome/education center for the garden. Well, see on this map where we're probably gonna tear it down. It's very small and
Right.
not particularly good shape, so could be that this house ends up being the welcome/education center. If the master plan even calls for it.
Right.
So, if you guys feel okay about it, then we can just ask staff to, have some sort of conversation about possible purchase price.
We
See.
can do that, Mayor, and report back in November.
All right.
And
Thinking along Clark's ideas there, there's a lot of challenges, and there's around this proposed scenarios, and then there's a lot of potential benefits as well. I mean, it's obviously an older home, but it obviously looks like a home that's brick structure, and just from the pictures and outside, I've not been in never that I know of, but, looks like a well-built, sturdy home. As far as repurposing the home, man, that brings on some host of challenges, especially open to the public, ADA and all this sorts of things, size of rooms and all like that. You could easily spend more repurposing that than you could have a 20 by 30 new facility of some sort, that's a little better suited. I'd be more inclined to look deeper into this if there was a possibility, and I know nothing about the Cox's situations, but if a portion of that could be some sort of taxable donation, I could get a whole lot more interested in a $40,000-$50,000 lot than I could a $100,000 house. It's gonna cost 50 to rehab into something that's not necessarily meets all our needs.
I agree.
Which is not a yes or a no.
That's sort of my thing. I think the value is based on a residence.
I don't know that money in that structure gets us any closer to where we want it to be.
No, and I will say that I never even considered, the purchase of this until they came to us. And it came to us through the mayor.
New Mayor Gerald, yes, sir.
Gerald. It's, Pauline's sister.
Yes, sir.
If you were to ask me point blank how I'd want to spend $100,000, I'd tell you on the sidewalks up and down through there.
Yeah. We're gonna spend $100,000 on sidewalks up and down there, and we'll do that part. Yes, sir.
I mean, just,
True.
but you can't grow any more land.
And there's another piece of property in this area that we probably might want to have more than this.
That's, yeah, yes, sir.
You might, I don't know anything about
There's a couple.
the corner lot and vacant lot might be the same price, and you could rearrange that drawing in the parking. I mean,
And the rental quadruplex is also for sale?
Yes. On the corner.
No,
No,
The other corner.
down. Well, not the corner, but where
At
where
Elm Street.
ends.
Elm hits
I don't
Main.
think it's listed with the local realtor, but it is listed.
and in keeping with what Jane's saying, I could also add, sometimes you buy a property for what it can't become.
Well, Mayor, I think that best way to proceed here is at 8:45, is that the council's given us, staff, some food for thought to work on. You and I can reach back out to Ag Extension for this spring, Mayor.
Yeah, I actually was talking the other day to some people and decided I would call Kenny, and I looked up his phone number and never got to make the call. So I will call him and see if he'll build a fire under the professor that we met with
Then
and
we'll-
see where that stands. I mean, COVID kind of put that off, took it off the burner. But, you know, at some point, we got to get back to business.
And we'll put this back on the agenda when we've kind of rounded all that. We have more answers before the council and a more in-depth plan.
All right. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. You got a calendar on the
Yes, sir.
screen?
Mayor, just quickly, everyone remember, Tuesday, the 20th, Tuesday, October 20th, there'll be a special joint meeting, 6 PM at Public Works for Economic Development. The public hearing will be at 6. There'll be 2 projects. Tomorrow, the ad will run in the classified section of the newspaper, the legal ads, so you'll read it as Project 1 and Project 2. The public is invited to attend. We will social distance at the Public Works conference room, and we will be televised through the county system. So if you can watch it on the county website, if our folks watching it now want to. We will record it for both our clerk and the county's clerk. Thursday, October 31st, isn't that a Saturday this year? I think it is a Saturday.
It's Saturday.
Yeah, it is Saturday this year. Saturday, October 31st, 4 to 6 PM. We're going to trick or treat in the park. That is usually the one we have downtown. You know, I think we had 5,000 kids estimated last year. We're going to try a drive-through this year. Now, we've got our traffic plan worked out with APD, the state, and AFD. You'll drive through, and the merchants downtown through the cultural recreation in downtown Asheboro will hand candy and projects.
I believe I saw in the paper the other day where we announced only the city staffers would be passing out candy.
Yeah. But
They'll have plenty of candy.
Yeah.
And it'll be
And some of the
drive-through
downtown
only.
merchants have always helped us, so.
Drive-through only.
Tuesday, November 3rd, it's Election Day. I think we missed off the opening day is what, October the 15th?
Yes.
Is early voting. And I think you can mail in your ballot anytime if you have it. Thursday, November the 5th is the next city council meeting. In your packet, Joanne may have put, if there's not, there is a press release, a media release today at 1:30. Randolph Health has been purchased by American Healthcare Systems, Inc. for $18.5 million. There will be a joint meeting. Mayor Smith and the chairman and Mr. Johnson and I got to work out the details. Sometime for us to meet the management team and the executive of American Healthcare Systems, Mr. Mike Sarian. You can Google him, Mr. Sarian. He's extremely well known in this business. Last Friday, Mayor Smith and I thought the bidding was over about 4 o'clock, and the bidding had just started.
How many rounds did you do? Like 18 or 20?
18 or, yeah, there was one bidder. There were 2 bidders, 2 hours before the bankruptcy bidding period opened, and when it was open, there was 7.
We contributed the other bids.
The other,
I don't know about I will say that the Java Dava, who we had met with, who we were excited about, the bidding started on Monday about quarter of 11 or 11 a.m., and they were knocked out by
they went
12.
one round.
They went one round.
It started at his 2.25.
Started at 2.25 million and it wound up at 18.5 million. If you watch the commissioners' meeting Monday night, you notice Chairman Fry was not in his seat. He was down at the courthouse. And the bidding ended Monday night at midnight. It started back
Started up again
at
at lunchtime or 11 o'clock on the next day.
on the next day.
And it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Mayor Smith and I went down and watched the bidding procedures and consulted with our bankruptcy attorney. At 1:30, the bid was at 9 million. The mayor and I I took him back to the plan. I came back here at 4:30. It was 18.5. We don't know the folks. We do anticipate there being a joint meeting where you'll be able to meet them.
They're out of California, right?
Yes, sir.
American was out of California. The final bidder, the last two bidders, the other bidder was New Jersey.
So there's a press release. You'll probably get home tonight and watch it, I'm sure.
Press release said substantially, does that mean inclusively all of the
That's,
assets?
All the assets.
that's,
So they're now partners with Cone theoretically?
On Staywell.
I think that's what you'll have to,
I mean,
I don't know that much.
yeah,
I've tried to
not knowing
avoid bank.
any more than we know, that's what you would.
That's
appear
what
to
you'd
imply.
expect, yes.
And there's still a lot of work to be done to finalize this deal. This was just the bankruptcy auction.
Right, so if some party wants to object, they have till Friday the 16th. And then the hearing, I guess if there's no objections, the judge will issue an order on, I think, October the 22nd or 23rd. The mayor and I will let you know more as we know more. That's more bankruptcy law than I ever intended to know. So, there'll be a lot going on in the next month or so. This weekend, the theater back opens. Our gym is open. You can go use it now. Each floor is, as we spoke about last time, each floor is in operation. Debbie mentioned water billing. For those of you who've been down to water billing, it's very cramped space. We can never make 25 people in because we can't get 25 people in there anyway. But on last payment day, we squeeze people in there. I don't know when we'll open up down there. Our basic problem is we only have 3 folks that work down there. So we're staffed optimally, but we're not overstaffed if we have 2 or 3 people sick. You may have seen that Thomasville has had firefighters sick. Clayton has had firefighters sick. Remember Chief Summers came several months ago and talked about all our responses. The firefighter passed away in Clayton, was 42 in perfect health. We're going to continue to go through this thing a while, I guess. As my grandmother used to say, if the president can get sick, anybody can get sick. Joanne's mother said, if John Wayne can get sick, anybody can get sick. True story. So, Mayor, that's all we have for tonight. The staff has, unless you have something we want to add. We appreciate the council's attention tonight, and it's good to hear Ms. Carter in strong voice. She was able to get to the redevelopment on Monday, and maybe we can get her here next month. So good to hear from you, Ms. Carter.
Okay, Ms. Carter, you have anything to add to the benefit of the room tonight?
The only thing I have is I still have concern with our COVID. I think I added it up today. Just the last 3 days, there's been 77 new cases for Randolph County.
Oh, yeah, we're starting to spike again.
Yeah, way spike. It had gotten down to about 4 or 7, and then it just has shot back up. I think it was, 29 today, 27 yesterday, 22 the day before.
Because we think it's over. I mean, you know, that's the thing. It gets better and everybody thinks, oh, okay, it's over. And stop doing their hand washing and their distancing and their mask and.
I think another thing that affected that was they stopped publishing. So people just forgot about it, because they were seeing it all the time on Facebook, and then all of a sudden it was gone.
I will tell you, I went to a church service.
I think what Ms. Carter's mentioning is the Randolph Public Health was posting numbers every day. They went to like a Tuesday and Friday, and I think it's, as the mayor said, it kind of drifted to the back burner for some people. But now it's back there.
I went to a church service Sunday morning as an invited guest, and I'm guessing there were 150 people there, and not one of them had a mask on except the mayor. And it was kind of disheartening. So, Mr. Swears?
I was impressed with the new rescue truck. I stepped up into it as I came in here this evening. That's a nice vehicle. It's surprising that, what they said was a 98 model. It looks brand new. It's just.
Dover, Delaware really takes care of their equipment.
Yeah.
And this is the second truck we bought from Dover. Yes, sir. A real bargain for us.
Yeah.
They take care of them and they move them out, get new ones, and we're the beneficiary of that. So.
Just thank the staff for everything that you do. This is just, it's amazing. Whenever I come by here, you think things running smooth, and things are running smooth, but you don't know all the things that are going on. And I sat down with John today, and it's like, oh, here's the hospital and a dozen other things that are going on. And it's just remarkable that, I guess it's like the duck and everything looks like it's smooth on the surface here, but boy, those legs are just a paddling, so there's a lot going on. And I really appreciate everything the staff does here to make it look like everything is nice and smooth, because it is nice and smooth, because you do work hard, and I appreciate that very much.
I'm reminded, Mayor, I'm getting my master's degree, and I was being mentored by Bill Karstarpin, who was the city manager of Greensboro. So if you know the flyover off I-40 right into Four Seasons Mall, right by the Sheraton Tower, Mr. Schofelt from Corey, myself, and Mr. Karstarpin were the first three people to see that. Obviously, I couldn't tell anybody. Because I learned an important lesson about city management that day, because as soon as Mr. Karstarpin and Mr. Schofelt finished talking about a $100 million flyover, somebody called up Mr. Karstarpin and let him have it because the city had broken his driveway pipe. So it's not the big things that get you, it's the little things. Town of 300,000 people.
Mr. Bell?
Well, I know that Trevor's absence, if you're watching Trevor, is because I told him I was going to publicly shame him and wish him happy birthday. So, happy birthday to Trevor.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Trevor.
It's in October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I hope it's not this week while he's in the hospital. Good luck to you, Trevor, if you're watching.
Get well soon.
Nothing to add.
Under the calendar items, after everyone's done with their trick or treating on the 31st at 10 o'clock will be the first episode of the NC Zoo on Nat Geo. You know, set your recorder, tune in, we'll see all of our local personalities. You know, two-legged and four-legged, or web-footed, whatever. And we are, I think it's the 24th, 25th, I need to look at my calendar it's on the site, Boo at the Zoo. They're taking advanced reservations for that for the kids. They do that on Saturday mornings and afternoons, and they're shooting the candy down the chute. Well, they'll sit there with their bag, and it'll come down in there, and it's all non-palm oil premium candy, and, you know, environmentally correct at the zoo. But anyway, you know, and it's $5 a kid, but the chaperones, parents or whatever, they don't pay anything, you know, to go. So anyway, it's a nice event if you need that. Okay.
You might have seen a press release recently where Councilman Moffitt, Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt, and Zoo Council Chairman Moffitt put the right people together to make a big project happen at the zoo to protect the rhinoceri in their exhibit from red algae, green algae or something growing in the pond, which is very toxic to the animals. And so he put Mark Marietta and a trucking company, Hilco,
Cruise Transport, Lender Equipment supplied the big grapple.
And, made all that happen and saved the zoo a ton of money and solved one of their little crisis, animal-related crisis. So proud of proud that you represent, the city, so well. And, as chairman of the, zoo council, that's big. I still haven't figured out how a Democratic governor appointed a Republican to the chairmanship of the zoo council.
You got lucky.
I think it was sound economic policy.
I'm sure.
We are paid a mileage fee as a stipend to attend the meeting.
So,
By far and away.
he chose the cheapest appointment he could make.
Yeah.
When I first started this job, my check was $1.12.
I hadn't thought of that. That makes more sense. Oh, okay. Staff, thank you very much. John did a good job tonight. Appreciate it. Trevor, I hope you'll, get well soon and be right back to work. Ray, thank you for being here. Always appreciate your coverage and stuff you do with the paper. And we will stand adjourned.
Yep.
I don't